G'day and welcome back to another episode here on the Hidden Why podcast. A great interview for you today, episode 1132, and I'm chatting with Dr. Perpetua Neo. What an amazing conversation. I just delved in so deeply, and she is such an intelligent woman. We talked about emotions, using emotions as data to navigate the world in a more enlightened way, mental versus physical energy, micro habits. We even touched on a bit of AI towards the end because I was curious to ask her that question, as I know she's delving into that space fairly significantly at the moment as well. Beautiful, beautiful conversation. She's a clinical psychologist, executive coach. She's the author of This Is What Matters. And man, you're going to get a lot out of this conversation. So I really hope you enjoy. You can reach all the show notes at thehiddenwhy.com. So check over there at episode 1132. And you can reach out to both of us there if you wish to say a quick g'day or give us your feedback or thoughts on this interview. Let us know what you think, guys. We'll chat at the other end. Hello, Dr. Perpetua. How are you today? Welcome to the Hidden Why podcast.
I'm fabulous today. Thank you so much for having me, Lee.
I was just looking at my notes. There's so many realms we could delve into with your work and background. So you're a clinical psychologist.
Yes, indeed, by training.
Yep, and you use neuroscience and ancient wisdom traditions to work with your clients, and you really deal with high-performing clients, CEOs and people of that nature, right?
Yes, absolutely. CEOs, driven people in the military, emerging senior leaders or emerging leaders as well, and Olympians even.
Okay. Crazy work. What are some of the success stories or stories that you might want to share with us of people that you've worked for?
So if we talk on an individual level, one of the most amazing things that I find would be people not just reclaiming what happened to them themselves from what happened before a rupture of life's crisis, but rather remembering who they have always been and becoming even more stronger and true to themselves. And then because of that, they shine. So, when we talk about crisis, it doesn't always have to be loud. It can be something that is soft and quiet in life, when life gives you a little rupture, because life happens, right?
Yeah.
Some people, some of my clients have been through really toxic relationships. And when you're in a relationship with a narcissist, a psychopath, any of your dark personality types, it is designed to break you. It's designed for you not to know what's going on. So a lot of people blame themselves. I found myself in one in my late 20s as well. And from my early to late 20s, and I had no idea either. So, I understand the shame, and the shame can break you and erode you from within. So helping people to reclaim who they are and shine even brighter, make their past pay dividends for them, make all their old demons work for them. This is something, I'm really proud of, regardless of what life or what life did to them, what life threw in their way, for them to start doing the work and to shine.
To reclaim their life. Well, that's certainly a topic that we should delve into in the interview today, for sure. I know you talk about it. You've got a book there, which was released in 22. This Is What Matters. And you talk about, helping people process through those hard times, navigate those hard times with a greater level of peace and harmony. So definitely want to delve into that. I'm a curious guy, so I want to know what got you into this work originally for yourself. Was there anything that triggered you to go down this rabbit hole and into this work helping others?
So I've always liked solving problems for people. I have a systems brain, so I like to be able to see how A leads to B, but not necessarily in a linear way, because we know that life is not linear. So this problem-solving ability has always been very rational to me. But then, as we understand, humans are not rational at all. And it took me a long time for me to even come to terms with my own irrational self, my own emotions, to see them as data rather than weakness. Because sometimes, we think we talk in therapy forever. We think, feelings, and somebody collapsed because of their feelings, or somebody was just overly emotional or just overly dramatic because of their feelings. And that gives feelings and therapy or working on yourself or self-awareness a bad name. So how do you just untangle from that? And what I realized was actually part of the solution in solving problems and helping people to shine was actually figuring out what blocks you, figuring out, unlocking who you are. And also transforming the parts of you that have become almost corrupted by the world or corrupted by the people's thoughts, expectations, and behaviors. So if I were to put it down into a phrase, it would be Michelangelo's quote, the angel was in a marble. I just had to carve it to set it free. Because so often we think we just got to add more stuff, do more protocols, download another shiny new app, consume 10 more books, and I'm going to be okay. It's going to give me nirvana. However, that is not true. It's often about removing all the grime from the amazing piece of marble that you really are and carving it to remember who you are. That is how you shine. That is how you work best with yourself and how you give your best gifts to the world without depleting yourself.
Love this topic. So when you talk about trauma, it could be a toxic relationship, it could be the loss of someone, and regardless like how loud or quiet, as you said before, it can block us from really proceeding in life with who we truly are supposed to be. But you've sort of also touched on, because I can relate to both right now, you know, we get molded by society and external expectations.
Yeah.
And I actually talked about this last night because I felt that way, and I'm still trying to unwrap it and, as you say, carve out the marble to find the true self here. But it's taken me a lot of work to go through that process. This is why the podcast exists, and really trying to find an inner alignment rather than, you know, externally aligned life. And it sounds like that's the kind of work that you do. So I want to talk into that. And what is the process for someone who's listening that may be feeling that way? Maybe they're feeling a little bit lost, a lacking of meaning in life. Maybe they're feeling a bit depressed because there's nothing exciting in their life. Maybe they're feeling a bit overwhelmed and anxious because there's so much going on and they feel like they have to do. Where do we start in processing all this?
So the start is to first understand that everything you're going through is part of being human. Even if you don't find yourself very human. Like one of the things that my friends always hear me say is that I think I'm half cyborg because I love logic. I love rationality. So no matter how human or how logical you are, it can feel like you're a special snowflake or this unique unicorn who has this strange, overwhelming emotions or no emotions at all. But the thing is that by the time you get out into this world, if you don't have some form of anxiety, some form of depression, or some episodes in your life when you've experienced this, then you are not human. So quite often we judge ourselves for a uniquely human experience. And if you see yourself as a battery, right? Because we all have phones and our phones all have batteries. We don't judge our phones. So if you see yourself as a battery, how do you leak? And this is the biggest epiphany for a lot of my clients. Because if you realize that judging yourself, beating yourself up all the time is causing you to leak energy, it's causing your battery to burn through fuel faster than you should. And what happens during that time isn't as simple as my battery is draining. From 80%, it's becoming 60% and 20%, and it becomes a yellow thing, right? That is not even the case. What happens is your amygdala, your fear center, is hijacking you, is hijacking your decisions. And if you don't take a plane knowing that there are hijackers on a plane, then you should not fly your brain knowing there's a hijacker. So if you let your hijacker make decisions, you are doing it from a survivalist point of view. And not only that, you are making impulsive decisions that are not wise. They're not well thought out. So what happens? You make mistakes. And most people are like, yeah, that's what people do. They make mistakes. Look at economies, right? Like a new policy is just supposed to stack onto something else, create a bit more mess, but nobody cares because somebody's going to clean it up. But actually, you really need to live your life in your head that way. So how do we do things in a way that does not create more mess, that keeps it clean and sleek? Going back to this marble and sculpture analogy. So you have to think about, how do you take care of your brain? How are you commanding your mental energy? Because Every day, there are so many things that threaten to take your mental energy away. And they don't necessarily have to be all the bad things that society demonizes, like scrolling on your phone. I like scrolling on my phone. There's nothing really inherently bad about that,
Yeah.
right? But it's about whether this behavior is in control of you. So if you're able to stop judging yourself, if you're having the self-awareness of, right, no, I like this behavior a little bit, like, I like to eat cakes, but am I going to eat 5 cakes? No. Okay. So keeping that within control is going to help you to conserve your battery better, help you to charge your battery better. And this will be the best foundations for you to navigate any kind of crisis and trauma or anything else, any kind of life episode. If you get these very unsexy foundations right, you're going to go super far and sustainably. But, people like things loud. People like things performative. Like, it's not about just, like they think about how people think about, oh, I'm going to lose the weight, right? It's not about how you lose the weight. It's about how you maintain your gains over the years and over the decades. So think about that in terms of your mental fitness. How are we going to make this one, pay? And two, how are we going to make this sustainable so that as we don't go from crap to awesome, we don't oscillate, we don't yo-yo, then we don't feel helpless and hopeless. So this will be the foundations of how I always start with every single client. Take care of the brain, conserve, command your mental energy.
Yeah. There's a lot we could delve into there. You talk about rationality and logic, and you're a big fan of it. I assume a lot of the people you're dealing with, clinically or other, there's a high level of emotion and feeling, which sort of is a bit separated from logic and rationality. How do you bring rationality into an emotional construct?
So the most important thing here, right, is one, emotions are data. Emotions are not truth. If you break it down, emotions go with motion, right? It moves. So most people think that if I feel something, it must be true or it must be a fact. I need to act on it. That doesn't always mean the case. So when people realize that you use emotions as data, they feel a lot safer to deal with that. And two is
what do you mean as far as, as using emotions as data? What do you mean by that exactly?
So when we say use emotions as data, it means what is this emotion telling me? Because emotions evolved as ways of signaling what is going on. So if I'm angry, it means that there's something unjust going on. If I am feeling depressed, meaning I don't feel, what happens is as a human, I evolved depression, or we evolved depression to signal to us when to retreat in order to conserve and charge up. The thing, however, is that sometimes we take, for whatever reason in life, all these mechanisms go haywire because we go down that rabbit hole. And, the anger consumes us, the anxiety consumes us, the depression consumes us. So when I'm feeling something, or when I'm feeling a mix of things, I want to pause and ask myself, okay, what I'm feeling, what in my body, and what's this telling me? Instead of being scared of my emotions, instead of saying, I'm not an emotional person at all. As a human, emotions are signals.
Okay.
Emotions are wisdom.
Okay, I like that. So when we feel an emotion, we often become, like you said it before, we let the amygdala, the fear part of our brain, then make decisions based on that emotion, rather than sort of stopping, letting that emotion or listening to the emotion and figuring out why it's there, and then using that as data to help us move forward. And, you talk about an emotion like depression as something that's telling us to retreat. And like emotions do that. They should be able to tell us something, that what is the discrepancy or the conflict in my life right now that's causing this emotion, and then what logically can I do to avoid that in the future. But a lot of us, I think in the world right now, so much overwhelm, causing anxiety and stress and anger, and people aren't slowing down to really listen in.
Yeah. Absolutely. We live in very uncertain times where, like what's been going on for many years, right? Since COVID, we've had so many rounds of almost economic crisis. And then this is artificially resuscitated. The zombie comes back alive. And then there's a little mini crisis, and then it gets resuscitated. And basically, we still don't know when the shoe is going to drop, right? But we know that prices have gone up by crazy amounts. We know that housing is very expensive. We know that our portions of food are decreasing on a basic economic safety sustenance level. It is scary. And if we're living in such times where you're not even sure about, your future, and we know that we are living longer and longer, so our lifespans are going to be 100 this time. And do you have money to take care of you to 100 years old? Don't tell me money is not important. Don't tell me your body is not important. Don't tell me your brain is not important. The moment any of the four chronic disease horsemen descend upon your life, it's going to be there almost forever. So let's say, it starts at 40. So I know people who tell me things like, oh, having gout at 30 is normal. I'm like, that's not normal. That means that if you live to 80 or 90, that's 60 years of suffering. That's 60 years of damage compounding upon itself. So you have to ask yourself then, in this, am I being yes, life is very uncertain, but is this body, is this brain? And if you are spiritually or philosophically inclined, is this spirit or soul able to keep me feeling and being a human, being connected with myself and other people, doing meaningful stuff, doing purposeful stuff until I die.
So how do we, I love what you said about the emotions and using that as data and, working up here as to what we should be doing. And listening, really, tuning in. And I think a lot of us are so overwhelmed, distracted, there's too much noise around us, comparison, expectations based on external realities. We don't give ourselves that space.
Yeah.
How do you help people create the space?
I think it's not just that we don't give ourselves that space. We don't know what to do with these emotions. I know how to brush my teeth, right? This is something that the psychologist Guy Winch said in a TED talk maybe 15 years ago. He said that when we cut our hands, we know what to do with a Band-Aid. But when we have a feeling, we don't know what to do with it. And I went to school, I learned so many things, right? I have 3 degrees. When I was 15, I learned 250 Chinese idioms. I know your DNA, I know the different parts of your DNA, blah, blah, blah. But did I ever know how to take care of my brain? Besides the fact that I knew some parts of my brain? No. Did I know how to read myself and other people? No. Did I know what boundaries are? No, not at all. I had to learn that the hard way. School of hard knocks, and then going to school to learn emotions as well. So how do we learn that? It's not the fact that, or it's not the fact about how we don't give ourselves the time or permission to do that. It's the world is organized and arranged in a way that stops you from doing that. Being aware of that takes the blame away. And when it takes the blame away, your battery stops leaking as well. So you can make better decisions that compound. So it's a bit like going to IKEA. Do you go to IKEA at all?
No, I try to avoid it.
Okay, so...
But I know the store. I can relate.
Yeah. So in IKEA, right, the store is a bit of a maze, and all the stuff are positioned in ways to make you go I want that.
Yeah.
And supermarkets, when you check out, there's all this amazing junk food and candy at the checkout aisles. Do you want this? Last minute deal. Have you forgotten something? All this stuff primes your brain to want to buy all the stuff. And you think it's $5, it's $3. No big deal. Oh my God, I'm going to miss out on that deal, right? So people blame themselves on why they have no control over their food and their diet. Well, if the supermarkets are arranged this way, if IKEA is arranged in this way to make you buy all the stuff you don't need, then actually think about it. The world is arranged in a way to make you not take care of your brains. So instead of imagining that you should have had the manual when you were born, now pause and teach yourself, what can I do if I want to make better decisions, if I want to make this pay for my future. But the problem is that human beings' brains are not wired to look into the future, right? Especially if you have an AD type of brain, so your ADD, ADHD brain. Because if I put an AD kind of person or a depressed or anxious person sometimes into an MRI scan, the part of their brain that is their present self and their future selves are not going to overlap.
Right.
So if your brain does not, if your brain literally sees your future self as somebody else, then taking the vitamins, saving the money, taking care of your head, making better decisions, delaying that impulse spending is not your problem at all. It's that idiot's problem.
Future problem.
And that idiot being your future self. So you have to be aware of all.
So just say that again
things.
about that MRI scan of the brain. Just explain that to me. So the future self and the current self.
Okay, so let's think about, say, flossing your teeth.
Yeah.
Taking your supplements.
Yeah.
Walking, say 7,000 steps. 10,000 is a bit much. Okay, so all this stuff we know are good for us. It's been screamed out over again on social media. And I think that's great because these days we are also consuming education and information. However, many of us don't do that because what happens is if I put people who don't do that in an MRI scan, the part of their brain that sees their present self and their future selves are actually two disparate parts. So what this means is that saving the money, taking the supplements, walking 7,000 steps or 10,000 steps, having that difficult conversation to grow in your relationship, that's not my problem at all. That is somebody else's problem. So I'm not going to solve it. So what I'm going to do instead, I'm going to take a path of least resistance. I'm going to scroll, I'm going to shop. And if I'm broke, what am I going to do? Klarna, pay later. I'm just going to divide it into 10 installments.
Yeah. And the system set up so we can do that. It sort of empowers us to do that. So how do we then, because I mean, you sort of talked about it before, and I really liked this, and Tony Robbins said it once, and it's stuck with me ever since. He doesn't negotiate with his mind, and it's a muscle that he's built. So things that he knows he should be doing or that are good for him, when his brain comes in and says, no, not today. He's like, no, I'm the boss here. This is what we do. And it's still something that sometimes I struggle with. But since he said that to me, I've really tried to practice it, and I've become a lot better at going, you know what, I'm going for a swim, and I'll just, when I have those days where I'm just like, I'm not going to do it, I just force myself to do it. So how do we develop that, and how do we get this person that's currently so presently focused on, consuming this, doing that, doing the things that they know that maybe they shouldn't do, but they're doing it anyway because they don't care about or are aware about their future self? How do we get that collaboration?
Your why must be big enough. So you must have this time in your life where you think, never again, never again. So I'm going to spend this time and effort to clear out the gunk, to clean the marble before I actually carve it, right? So you need to have this why. And this why cannot be something that's politically correct or something that's socially desirable if it doesn't align with who you are. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I call dubious life goals. Now, this is not a psychological term. This is a Dr. P term. And it's something that makes my clients and my friends laugh because sometimes a dubious life goal is what gets you to actually do the work. So for instance, after COVID, I was at my last never again yo-yo stage of weight loss. So, I would lose weight and then I would gain weight and I'll lose weight and gain weight. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm sick of this stupid yo-yo. Never again. But telling you that I'm doing it for my health, my AD brain means, I don't believe you. I'm doing it for my future. My ADHD brain, I don't really know what the future is. So why do I do that? So a dubious life goal has to be something that is almost shallow and vapid and maybe even embarrassing to actually declare. So mine was like, I want to wear a crop top all year round. And that got me to take care of my body. And as it got me to take care of my body better, my goals changed because I can wear a crop top all year round. And I realized I like how my brain feels now. I like how my body feels now. I'm getting stronger and stronger. I'm no longer the person who can't even run for the bus without sputtering because I was born with very weak lungs. I was born with very bad immunity. In Chinese medicine, I have a very bad constitution. I'm always falling sick. But for the first time in my life, I have strength. And knowing that gives me strength. And doing that makes me want to keep doing this over and over again. So whatever you want to do, let your dubious life goal, let this why that may be a bit embarrassing, motivate you. And sometimes this why can be something as, for some of my clients, proving somebody wrong. And you don't have to worry about, the whole partiness behind that, because as you get momentum, your why changes. But as long as you get the momentum, because people think that I just got to find motivation. People think motivation is the cat you call that runs to you when you stick your head out the door and say, hey, food time. Nope. Motivation is so elusive. So you have to create momentum. And sometimes momentum is created by something petty, embarrassing, or just a bit dubious. But who cares? As long as it gets you doing the work.
Yeah, interesting. You could think about this podcast that I started over a decade ago now as a dubious life goal. I started it because I thought, oh, this is kind of cool. My ego sort of said I could be a podcaster and I could make money off it.
Yeah.
That all changed very quickly, within a year.
Yeah.
And I've been doing this podcast for over a decade now because I enjoy it. And the fundamental changes it made in me is what happens through that momentum. Everything else that I started for is forgotten. I don't even care about it. So that's kind of like that sort of goal. But I feel like there's probably a lot of people listening to this going, okay, well, I like this idea and I definitely like it. People have things that they want to do in life, but they're stuck. They're not doing them. They're held back. And, they might have a nice dream, a vision, a why about really what they want to achieve that's really aligned internally with them, yet still they can't start. They can't find the momentum. What can we do?
What can we do? In this case, two ways of thinking about this. Probably you've got to work on both, but let's see what's the most important here. One is permission to do something, but I think two is actually fundamentally more important. Two is the logistics behind that. It's practical and emotional logistics. So what I mean here is what really stands in the way besides giving yourself permission. So is your life so clogged up? Is your head, is your mental energy and your physical energy so incinerated every day? Are you running on empty? If you run on empty, how on earth are you going to fulfill this massive, beautiful goal that's been, whispering inside you since probably you were a kid? No, because this is something very, very sacred and something that deserves your love, your attention, and your devotion. But if you only have scraps to give it, you're never going to start. So this is what I mean, when I talk about how sometimes our lives are very messy. Sometimes there's a lot of things incinerating our energy. So physical energy and mental energy, let's talk about the difference between that. So physical energy is my ability to do things because my body has got the charge to do physical actions. And sometimes that if I take a walk, I'm going to feel better, and then I'm going to lift my weights, right? If I take a walk or if I take the stairs, I'm going to feel really good, and then I might go and do the gym and stationary bike. That creates its own momentum. But there are times, like for instance, in the past 2 years when I had a big family crisis and then uncertainty from that crisis to deal with, because it's health of somebody you love and it's not within your own control, right? So I found myself able to bike in the gym for the first time in my life. But I had no mental energy to write a document to develop my business. So while I was still seeing my clients, I was taking care of my clients. I was writing articles for different publications. I was working in the media. I was not able to develop the business in a way that makes me excited and in a way that takes me into the future. And that's because mental energy is very different from physical energy. And yeah, it's grateful I had physical energy. But mental energy has got to do with your motivation, your momentum, your mental fuel to be able to do something, your mood, your strength in terms of the way you think when it comes to a certain task. So most people are not aware that there's a difference between mental and physical energy. And when we are not aware, we can blame ourselves and get really pissed off. Like, yeah, I could run. Why is it that I cannot work? Am I being lazy? So ask yourself, what in your life is chewing up your mental energy? What in your life is chewing up your physical energy? What steps do I need to get in place as step 0 before I can start working on that dream, on that goal? So especially if you have a brain that currently is feeling overwhelmed from not being able to feel. Okay, I know that sounds like an irony, but if you can't feel because you're depressed, or you can't, or you're feeling too much because it's a dark night of the soul, or you're oscillating between that, both of them. That is a lot to deal with. That's going to be chewing up your mental energy. So if you ask yourself, what is the step zero I need to get in place? So I'm going to give you an example again from sculpting bodies, because that's from discipline from health, because that's something most people relate to, taking care of their bodies, right? So before I could start exercising, I knew that my step zero was actually removing makeup from my face. And it sounds crazy, right? But I've ADHD. So the stupidest, smallest task is what brings my brain to meltdown. So, I have to remove makeup. I'm not going to do that. But if I don't remove makeup, I'm going to get acne because I'm got acne-prone skin. So what did I do first? I went to the doctor and a facialist, and I said, take care of my skin so I never have to wear foundation or any kind of coverage on my skin ever again. Sorted that out, then I started exercise.
Right.
So ask yourself, what is the equivalent of the thing that is stopping you from actually embarking on that? Maybe your life is kind of messy. Maybe you're saying yes to everybody, even though you really want to say no. Or maybe you're saying yes, you're checking with XYZ because you think you have to be nice, because you think it's only 5 minutes, but 5 minutes and resentment compounds. Or, maybe you're just doing way too much. You're over-functioning. And while that's something that you're used to, doesn't mean you have to carry that for the rest of your life, because we evolve, our old selves shed and die like snakes.
Yeah. You sound like a very active mind, very busy person as well. How have you managed? How have you managed? Because when I'm a bit the same, I guess I have all these ideas and all these things that I want to do, and it's only more recently, after the loss of my father a couple of years ago, that I started to really go, shit, okay. And something switched anyway, and I started to go, I need harmony and balance in my life. But still, I find myself, quite busy, and sometimes it's just so draining mentally and physically. How have you sort of coped with that in your personal experience?
It's basically to keep things as streamlined as possible. So whatever I don't need, I throw away, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, relationally, all the things that I'm tolerating that I don't need to. What have I outgrown in my head and in my life? So the more I discard, not for the sake of discarding, but for the sake of seeing how is this aligned. And I can bless the things I discard. I don't have to feel guilty about that. That is pretty big. And another thing is that a lot of people, especially people who think too much, people who come from religions that are Abrahamic in origin. So especially, I'm Catholic myself, but my clients who are Catholic and Jewish always like coming to me because there's a lot of guilt. And when there's a lot of guilt, you're going to be very busy in your head. So ask yourself, what's all this guilt about? Where can I lay this guilt to rest without feeling like I'm a bad person, without erasing my past? And also a lot of times, there's a lot of high functioning people who have achieved a lot in their lives. In the past 5 or 10 years, right? We've been reading op-eds about how, I was brought up to strive and accomplish, If only I had learned to be soft, to be this, to be that. And people start shooting down their paths. People start shooting down their origin stories. But you know what? You are here now. And instead of shooting down your past and giving yourself no coherent story that leads from here to here, maybe bless the path that brought you here. And then ask yourself, how can I use this path, the person that I am, to become the person I want to be?
Yeah, powerful. I like that. It's sort of, I love what you said, just streamlining stuff. And someone said, a friend of mine said it to me recently about a personal topic, and said, maybe you have to create the space. And until you create that space, you're not going to welcome that in. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense. And I'm the same. Like I get rid of things. I like a clean environment because it's just clutter. And I know I work better without clutter. And that's the same with what's going on up here. The same with my daily task list or schedule. The more I can streamline it, the better. So really important. And a lot of people, just to create that space, I think would be ideal for them to then start this process that we've been talking about of, understanding the mind, becoming a bit more aware. But it's firstly creating that space, which I guess is the barrier for a lot of people. And I coming back to this, because I think this is the foundational point of it all, is having some level of self-awareness. Because until you get that, how are you ever going to be able to be self-aware of how you're feeling or your emotions and analyze that?
Definitely, it's not just about creating space and cleaning your house up. Well, that's important, right? It's how do you maintain the organization? What systems do you have, right? So let's say, I clear all the photos on my phone and delete 7,000 photos that I don't want. And then what's next? I go to a retreat and then I breathe, I feel good, and then I go back to my real life. And then what question is really important? How am I sustaining this in my life? If I know how to take care of my brain, and how am I going to apply that when things are good, neutral, or scary? So this is asking yourself what systems and structures can work on autopilot for me. So it's like people, thinking about, oh, I don't want to invest money, I don't want to save money, it's hard. What do? You put it on autopilot. You set a certain amount that transfers from one account to one account every X date or every month, and the magic happens, right? So this is all about compounding, because every day, not just in terms of money, your habits, which is your thoughts, your mindsets, your actions, the different sensations in your body, and how your postures rest or calcify or relax, they all compound. So one thing that this lady and I who work with always agree on is that compounding is the eighth world wonder, and neuroplasticity is the ninth world wonder. So every day it can either compound against you or compound in your favor. So a super important thing to ask yourself then is, what habits am I doing right now that are compounding? If you look at the numbers when it comes to compounding, it's hard to imagine, right? So run the numbers like $100 at 8% every month. How's that going to compound 30 years? That's going to terrify the crap out of you. And so that's what happens when you think about the magic of compounding, either bad things or good things. So you have to keep reminding yourself, like, who do I want to become? Who am I fundamentally? And what's my dubious life goal? That's making me take 5 steps ahead. And if you keep doing that, seeing a new milestone, seeing this new person that you are, seeing what you're shed, seeing how you're glowing, seeing how much more peaceful you are, that's going to take you further and further and further towards becoming the person that you want to be. And so creating that space starts with asking yourself, 1, do I have permission to do that? 2, what do I need to first create the space that's not overwhelming me? And 3, what's the automatic habit that I can set?
I like it. And it's so true. You have to be kind to yourself through the process, because there's still going to be some of the stuff that you're guilty of or ashamed by that sticks around. But if you do those habits and keep doing them, it'll just grow like any muscle, and you'll become better and better
Absolutely.
at all that as well. It's a absolutely pleasure speaking with you today. I really appreciate our conversation. I'm conscious of the time too. Anything you want to finish with today to let the audience know? I know you're probably working on a whole bunch of things at the moment, but
yeah. So I think like one of the most important
best reach you? Yeah.
Okay, so people can reach me through my website, perpetuaneo.com. It's currently being updated to reflect everything I've been doing over the past 5 or 6 years, and what I'm doing going forward with AI and neuroscience mixed together to take people into the future. And the most important thing here that we're going to talk about is that in a world where disruption, where AI and the fact that we're living longer and longer to 100 years old is the new normal, you have to take care of your body and your brain. So being able to command your mental energy is going to help you win, not just in your career, not just as an organization, sustainably, but as a human being. And that's those small little habits. And if you give yourself the permission, set up the structures to do it in a way that is aligned with your beliefs, your lifestyle, your goals, your values, then you're going to win.
So this is really where we should be spending a lot of time working with people on how to be better with our body and our mind.
And
fundamentally.
And maybe what you can do later is to share what do you do to take care of your body and your mind and to win, however you want to define win.
Yeah. I think, even at school, they need to do more of this.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
you've got me curious now, but AI,
Yeah.
I love the space,
Mm.
but it scares a lot of people.
Of course.
So I'm interested
Yeah.
that you're into it. So where do you see it taking us?
I think AI is going to definitely rearrange society. Jobs are going to change, economies are going to change, and that's going to be very scary for a lot of people. But I think if we're able to not be afraid of it and integrate with AI, so how can we use AI to make our lives better and easier without having the illusion that we are on top of things? So what I mean by this, right, is that I could be typing some stuff into ChatGPT, Cloud, or Gemini, or DeepSeek, and then I can feel like I'm learning a lot of things, but actually I'm not. I'm just generating a lot of information. And for a lot of people, this gives them this fallacy that they're doing stuff, but actually their brains are atrophying because their attention spans are getting shorter and weaker. Their foci are getting worse. And then they're not remembering things. They're not retaining things. Think about your friends or people you work with who say, I can't compose an email anymore, right? I can't write anymore. So your skills, when you work with AI, you have to stop, you have to reflect, you have to integrate. So for me, what this means is I'm copying that into a document, deleting crap I don't want, and highlighting what I need, and reflecting how I'm going to take that forward. That is step one. And step two is to actually have the sense of discernment as to what is important here, what is relevant, what is real and valid for me or the person that I'm becoming right now, instead of taking everything as gospel truth. And if you can do that, then AI can definitely help you to grow. It can help you to grow as a person and professionally. But if you don't do that, you're going to have this fallacy that you are smart, that you are learning a lot of things, but you're not. And your brain abilities are actually, cognitive abilities are actually going to shrink. So AI is amazing.
Yeah.
I love AI, but we have to be very careful of how we command AI.
Yeah.
Or how we integrate with AI instead of, fear it or just go into it without abandon.
I love that. I'm glad I asked.
Yeah.
Really healthy takeaway. So guys, check it out. The link's in the show notes at thehiddenwhy.com. Brilliant conversation today with Dr. Perpetua. So reach out to her if you have any questions, want to connect, anything like that. And thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me today, Lei. I had a great time chatting with you about these topics that we are so aligned with as well.
Yeah, me too. Guys, check it out, thehiddenwhy.com. Until next time, peace, passion, and purpose. See you soon. So there is our interview. What did you think? That's my conversation with Dr. Perpetua Neo. Just a really cool conversation. I got so much out of it. There was so much depth in here. So much to explore, to reflect upon. I hope you feel the same. And make sure you head on over to thehiddenwhy.com. All the show notes will be there for you to explore, including the links to Dr. Neo. So if you wanted to click on her book or jump on her website, the links will be there. And reach out to me, guys. I'm here on a mission to live life more fully, have more meaning, and find more joy. And I want to help others do that themselves as well. So let us know. You can reach me directly through the website, or you could chat to me through Facebook Messenger, Insta, probably the two best platforms, or email me directly, and we can set up a time to chat about how we can give your life more guidance so you can live more fully, have more meaning, and find more joy as well. Until the next episode, you have a great week ahead, and we'll talk soon.